Hey guys, here, Gene, and welcome to another GTA 5 updated top 5 supercars episode. I've already made 2 episodes related to this particular car class over the course of the year. The first episode came out at the beginning of the game, and then the second one came out 6 months later. So at the beginning of the game, I wasn't really sure about the cars, sort of capabilities and sort of the knowledge based on the cars and how they worked. So I sort of based my listings on how they looked instead. And then 6 months later, I had a little bit of knowledge, but not that much because I was still sort of beginning to hot laps, really understand the cars. And now it's sort of the finalized list where it's all to do with my understanding of the cars and what I prefer, what I'm most comfortable with, and all around what I would use for free roaming and generally speaking, my top 5 personal favorite list. Of course, if your opinions have changed about the cars or your listings as well from the course of the year, be sure to let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to see that. If you guys do enjoy my personal list, be sure to hit the like button. I'll be greatly appreciated. Other than that, let's get right into this episode without wasting any further time. In the number 5 spot, we have the Infernus. This all-wheel drive system is absolutely epic, right? At first, you may seem a bit confused if you actually sort of use other supercars for a while. If you just pick this up, then you may feel like you're going slowly, but once you get the hang of things around each corner and get your braking points right, you'll actually carry a lot of speed. You actually generate a lot of speed as well, because the way the acceleration works is you have to respect that through the braking. And braking points with this particular car slightly early compared to the other supercars, because you benefit from that braking through acceleration. And it's the way you have to sort of pay attention to the sound of the car as well. And by the way, remember, this particular list and order is nothing to do with performance. Like I said, it's to do with my opinions as to what I prefer. So here's another thing about this car, right, is that if you don't brake, it refuses to turn. Its turning circle is absolutely poor compared to the other supercars, but like I said, if you respect the brakes and get the braking point spot on, the car will turn. As long as you brake, the car is fine. Otherwise, you will understeer and just completely tear apart a building and ruin the beautiful looks of this car. Remember, this entire listings with this top 5 is based on my opinions, nothing to do with performance or lap times. I only did 2 laps with each of these cars, and these are the lap times that I pulled off that you see at the end of each lap. So you get a rough idea of what car that I'm most comfortable with. Also, it's generally speaking how I drive with these cars as well. So you guys get a sort of understanding as to what driving style I'm most comfortable and prefer, I guess. Also with this car, the sound of the engine has changed from PS3 to PS4. It sounds much better, more crisp, more sharp, and it does feel awesome. It's an amazing car to drive, man. Looks absolutely beautiful, and it certainly is rewarding when it comes to braking points as opposed to all the other supercars. But in the number 4 spot, we have the Zentorno. My opinions have changed the most for this particular car out of all the other supercars in this listings, as you can see by just the ranking as where I've placed it for number 4 spot, as opposed to the previous episode. It's quite high up in the list, and there's quite a few reasons for that. Before we get into the reasons, I just wanted to clarify that we now only use high-end tires for our cars instead of off-road tires. That makes a huge difference to the responsiveness of the cars and how it feels and how comfortable you are with these cars. I suppose, you know, the variables given on the roads and the tracks, you know, a lot of these potholes, a lot of these bumps do affect the car with high-end tires now. So you get the more sort of natural reaction given from the car itself as you drive it around the track, whereas opposed with the off-road tires, all of that is sort of gone and it's just flat-out roads. But this all comes down to how you perceive racing, how you perceive, you know, using the cars. I'm more of a guy that wants car control rather than, you know, consistency with just smoothness of the road. But that's just me, because when there's bumps and little variables involved, there's a lot of car control also involved, how you sort of turn, how you control the pace through the corner with the bumps given, and you have to sort of anticipate that. So with that being said, the reason why I don't like the Zentorno that much, but it deserves a spot in the list because of what it's done for me and how this car is. It feels like a robot. It doesn't really feel like an actual car that you can sort of drive and race with. The thing about this is that if you were to race with this, it's not really the greatest experience for racing, and the smoothness you get is not that great as well. There's a lot of bump and grinding. It's not really clean overtakes, you know. It's because it's got such a fat rear, and also a lot of weight on the rear as well. With high-end tires now, when you're braking and turning at the same time, you get a lot more oversteer now. So it's important that you brake first before you turn, as opposed to other sort of cars where you can sort of brake and turn at the same time. And that sort of logic is provided by GTA only. So yeah, it wasn't particularly great lap time, but you know, like I said, I wasn't really going for lap time, more just sort of seeing how I do in 2 laps. So in the number 3 spot, we have the Cheetah. But before we move on to this, I just want to quickly summarize the Zentorno as to why it's number 4 spot on this list. Well, first of all, the reason why I made it in this list is that I still enjoy the car, and the fact that I do like it because it's the quickest supercar. but it's still only appropriate for breaking boundaries of lap times on a particular track, or sort of hot lapping, I guess. But it's not really that great for racing, which is what I love doing on GTA 5. So with that sort of being said, you know, natural sort of smooth overtakes and smooth racing won't be there with the Zentorno. It's sort of like a stop and start, break and go, you know, rear block in the view because it's so big, and at the same time it's just a car that has insane amount of acceleration, which sort of does the work for you, rather than the player having to focus on car control, which there is a little bit involved there, but that's mainly to do with the braking and how you understand the driving style of the car. But once you do figure that out, there's not much involved with car control around corners because the speed is generated through acceleration. So let's just say that, put it like that, you know, that's basically the understanding of the Zentorno now, especially with high-end tires. But now with the Cheetah on the other hand, this looks absolutely fantastic. It's an efficient car due to its amazing traction. It sticks onto the ground. So anything that you want to do with this car is pretty much doable, but there isn't many choices provided with this car. So it's mainly just you brake at one particular point to get that one optimal line. There's only one really optimal line for these sort of cars because, you know, there's really no understeer or oversteer, but there's only so much you can do with this because of its turning circle and braking. So although it sticks onto the ground, the performance is not that great with top speed and acceleration, speed generated through the corners, but it's still an extremely consistent car and extremely fun to drive. It's so low into the ground that little bumps and whatnot you won't be affected by, even regardless of high-end tires. But number 2 spot, we have the Entity, man. This is still one of my favorite cars in the game, man. A lot of people ask me why I don't use this that often. Well, first of all, it's the driving style. It's all to do with the driving styles. And I don't feel like I've got that many options with this car. I'm really restricted to the braking points and how I'm supposed to turn with this car and take the lines. And like I said, I always look at it from a racing POV, mainly to do with my comfort, and I'm not that comfortable with this car in racing environments. There's a lot you have to pay attention to. This is a great car to use in racing, by the way. I'm not saying it's not, but it's once again one of those things where you have to stop and start, you know, really just brake and go. But you can still carry a lot of speed through these corners, and that's where the skill gap is, and that's what I like about this car. But it's very easy to make mistakes also, because when you do choose a particular line, if you do throw it through that line with no throttle control, then you're screwed because you're going to completely understeer. And there's hardly throttle control involved with this car, because if you do let go of the throttle, you're going to lose a lot of speed. The whole point of this car is to make sure you carry optimal speed through the braking. And so that's one of the things about this car, where it's sort of like you can't really sort of roll the dice with the choices given. It's one of those things like so similar to the Cheetah, where you have to follow certain braking points, otherwise you're screwed. You can't change up, you know, you're extremely restricted. But it is definitely rewarding for what you do, but it's extremely important to pay attention to those braking points, because otherwise it'll be extremely costly. You'll be making a lot of mistakes. But there is traction there to help you to prevent the oversteer, so that's one good thing. But the understeer is certainly there, which is of course predictable, and it all comes down to practice and really the sort of comfort as well. But and as you can see by the lap time there, it's pretty good as well, considering I've never used this car for a very long time, actually, a few months now. So 138, right, which is, considering, you know, other cars within this list, you know, I wasn't really that great with. The Entity still, I do have that nice connection with. But number 1 spot, man, it's got to be the Turismo. And the Turismo and Entity have similar lap times to each other, but completely opposite driving styles, right? And this is a driving style that I love, you know, risk-taking, the choices, the freedom given to the driver to be able to, you know, take the car around the corner how he wants to, right? So obviously the risk taken is there, and of course when you do take the risk and it's successful, it is extremely rewarding, right? You get insane amount of speed carry through these corners, but that's all to do with the driver's judgment as to how your car is positioned through the apex cornering, and how you are going to take that speed and carry it through, and making sure that you're confident through the lines you're taking, because this car's got amazing brakes, right? You can brake late into corners, but at the same time you can also turn and brake, and that's the crazy part. You know, that's not really the logic that a lot of these other cars follow by, where it's sort of you have to brake first and then turn. But with this car, as you turn, you can brake, and really all comes down to your throttle control as well, because you don't even have to brake at certain corners, you know, as opposed to other cars you have to, because you get complete understeer. But with this car, because of its turning circle, braking is not even required for majority of these corners in the game with this map given, right? You can pretty much just let go of your throttle and carry the speed generated through the acceleration, and just completely throw it once your nose is straightening up from the exiting of the apex. So this is where the skill gap is generated for this particular car, and the reason why we use it all the time is because for each corner, each player will use different amount of throttle control. You know, someone might half throttle it, some might you know, 3/4 it through the right, you know, right R2 button for acceleration. So this is where the skill gap is created. This is where car control is involved, and this is the beauty of using the Turismo for racing with the smooth overtakes and clean battles, because it's, you know, player has to focus on the car control along with racecraft as well. And that's what I keep trying to explain and emphasize, that not a lot of the other cars have that freedom and choice and skill gap there. So let me know what your top 5 would look like. From your opinions, has it changed? Like I said at the start of this episode, thanks for tuning in and watching and listening to me ramble about my opinions on these cars. Also, I've got another question for you guys, because I'm pretty confident we should be receiving a supercar pretty soon from a new DLC. So let me know, what supercar would you guys like to see from real life added into GTA 5? That'd be interesting, actually. Let me know in the comments below what are the top 5, top 10s you guys want to see next. That is about it. Thanks for the support, guys. Subscribe for more GTA 5 daily content. Check it out now. Good night, peace. Yeah. Shit is all coming down to this. Equal points. 108 last race. 10 laps. Holy shit.